So I can talk about some of the technology barriers.
That'd be
perhaps?
great, yeah.
So the technology barriers are, first the broadband infrastructure that Anish talked about. As far as I can tell, and from my work on the National Broadband Plan, we really don't have data about real connectivity in classrooms. We have overall statistics about, just as Anish talked about earlier, we have overall statistics about 90% of instructional rooms have an internet connection, but nothing about the capacity of that connection and how many applications they could potentially power at the same time. So we really don't know. And then beyond that, the barriers provided by the different matrices of standards in every state, the different data standards of every single product that's tried. Our community really has not settled on the idea that ownership of data lives with the person who bought the data. And so that person who bought the data should have access to that data and should have a way to incorporate that data with all of the other things that they buy. And so,
Can you be more specific on that point?
Specific examples about tying together the results of different formative assessment systems. Being able to display together the results of different formative assessment systems, instructional activity kind of things that might be going on in learning management systems, and summative assessment systems at the end of the day. Tying that in at all with maybe the lesson planner application that your school's bought for teachers, or the parent reporting system that your system is bought for parents, or the student information system that runs all of your attendance data every day. There's no standard, and there's really, at this point, not a lot of history of consumers standing up and saying, that's all my data and I need it to work together so that I can manipulate it to get it to do what I need it to do outside of each of those individual products. And so when we talk about interoperability, we're talking about content interoperability and hoping to take advantage of the Common Core to really push that forward in math and in ELA. And on the data standards work, there's a lot of projects that have been started, but not yet a place where you can go to start seeing all that data move around. And so our work on my team at the Gates Foundation is really trying to think very hard about that. But I think those are just some of the key technology barriers, let alone the process barriers.
So if I were to sort of shorthand, if we're talking about getting data from multiple sources and pulling it together to get a more complete picture and maybe comparing those pieces against one another, we can't do that right now.
No.
And every individual thing we buy, the new reading program or whatever, it sits on its own
Yes.
island.
And it talks about data-driven instruction, but then it only talks about data-driven instruction from the data that it creates.